Individually, the Fandom Menace is actually made up of some really fucking nice people, but it's the big channels that piss me off. They have no integrity whatsoever. Now, I made a video a couple of days ago condemning the larger members of the Fandom Menace, the leaders, if you will, and I was so pissed off that I forgot to include one thing: evidence. So that's what this video is. It's to back up my last video, and hopefully people will see the hypocrisy I was talking about. And despite how it may seem, this isn't meant to be a personal attack on them as individuals. It's meant to show the hypocrisy of the leaders of the Fandom Menace. You know why? Because the smaller channels, the channels I actually spend time watching, actually care about the quality of Star Wars, and as such, those individuals won't go to see Rise of Skywalker. But the big Fandom Menace people, the leaders, they saw it day of release. How can they justify that? As far as I'm concerned, you can't, and I've heard all sorts of reasons. I've heard because I run a Star Wars channel. I've heard I didn't actually pay, somebody else paid for me. I've heard I paid for a different movie but watched 9. I've heard all sorts of bullshit. It's all just bullshit. You know why? Because however you justify it, you've still seen it for one very simple reason: the views on your channels. It's not about integrity, it's not about defending Star Wars, it's about the likes, the subs, and we can't forget those super chats, can we? Red Gaze made an excellent video about the same thing, and in his video he says, and I'm paraphrasing here so don't quote me, but he says that if you went to see 9, don't hide behind us, don't tell us you saw it so we can watch your reviews. We already knew the movie was going to be shit. We didn't need you to tell us. Stop pretending you put yourself through a massive ordeal to deliver a service to us that we didn't ask for, and admit it. You went to see 9 because you wanted to. And you know what? I 100% agree with him. Don't fucking hide behind your subscribers to justify your hypocritical bullshit. At least have the balls to fucking admit that you wanted to see it. Don't put the blame on us, the people who so far haven't seen the movie. Not only is it hypocritical, it's also weak and pathetic, and shows that you have no integrity or backbone. Have the balls to admit you went because you wanted to see it. As I said in my last video, I'm going to see it, but I'll be seeing it way after opening weekend. You know, something the big Fandom Menace people could have done so that their money at the very least didn't count towards opening weekend. Because, you know, if it turns out that Rise of Skywalker broke box office records in its opening weekend, you contributed to that. You know that, right? It probably won't, but if it does, you're part of that problem. And what makes it worse is the fact that you people encouraged a boycott. I just can't wrap my head around this one. You sat there and recorded yourselves so full of self-righteousness, saying things like, Disney won't get my money, or do you really want to reward Disney for what they're doing? Or, fandom, we must say no with our wallets. As much as I don't want to give Disney my money, I will be seeing Rise of Skywalker, and I make no bones about that. And do you know what? It doesn't make me a hypocrite. Do you know why? Because I never said I wouldn't see it. In fact, I've always been very forthcoming about the fact that I definitely will see it, and the fact that I never urged anyone else not to see it. That's the hypocrisy here. How can these people claim not to be hypocrites after telling all of us not to see the movie, then they saw it on release day? That's the hypocrisy that fucks me off. Channels that didn't call for a boycott or didn't try to guilt people into not going, if you saw Rise of Skywalker, fair play to you. You are not hypocrites. You're not what I'm talking about here. You saw the movie and that's fine. You didn't urge people not to see it, then go and see it opening day. You are fine in my book. But the people who called for a boycott, then saw it on release day, you are hypocrites of the highest order. And that brings me back to what I was originally talking about, evidence. So I've got about 3 people here, including the one I quoted in my last video. Fandom Menace, watch this and tell me with a straight face that these people aren't hypocrites. I dare you. Tell me these people have integrity. Tell me these are people worth following. And you know what? It would be so easy to go after Jeremy, so you won't see him. I'm removing that card because we all know he's been screaming boycott Disney, then surprise surprise went to see it release date like the fucking hypocrite he is. So here's my proof that the big people in the Fandom Menace are hypocrites. There are only about 3 people, but you know what? I just didn't have the time or the inclination to do more. This is already going to be a 10-15 minute video, and that's long enough to prove my point. But this should show you well enough what I'm talking about. And while I only have these 3, they are not by any means the only ones, and they are just a small example of the wider problem. These are not the only people, so please don't think I'm saying only these people are hypocrites, or I've singled these people out because I have a particular problem with them. These are just an example of a wider problem. Doomcock. We all know who he is. He's a smart guy. He always presents his evidence and never claims what he's saying to be facts, only rumours, and I appreciate that. What I don't appreciate is the hypocrisy.
These are our terms of surrender. Only when they are met can peace be restored to that galaxy far, far away. Because without respect, we reject. Until that time, I urge you to boycott Rise of SKywalker. Let's make certain that Disney never forgets the name Fandom Menace. And it wouldn't matter if it was the bestest damn Star Wars movie of all time. Without an apology, without a shift away from these tactics of alienating and denigrating the audience, we must say no. Fandom, with wallets closed. That should be our motto. Without respect, we reject, people. It's never been more important than it is now.
As you can see, Doomcock called for a boycott, then saw the movie release day, making him a hypocrite. Mary Mayhem. I'm sorry, Price of Reason. I like Mary and was sub to her for ages, but the virtue signalling is killing me, and it's all wrapped up in a nice, neat, hypocritical bow. Saying I'm not calling for a boycott, then virtue signalling and laying guilt trips on people to make them want to boycott the movie is still calling for a boycott, no matter how much you claim you're not calling for a boycott. You're just doing it through emotional manipulation.
The fight, the boycott, the backing off, the not giving them our money. That's because we love Star Wars. At least for me, it was because I love Star Wars. Because I demand you treat it better. I demand that you do better by these characters, or you will not have my support. So after this, I hope that we move forward in a different way, Lucasfilm. I hope that things change for the better, because you will not be receiving my money for this film. And I'm not calling for a boycott, because that's not how I operate. But I would encourage the rest of you not to lose your minds when a trailer comes out, because emotional manipulation is something that Disney is very good at. So don't get on the hype train if you never wanted to be. And if you're trying to maintain some semblance of a stand against this stuff, remember that when the time comes, because it is fast approaching. We are about 2 months at this point away from the release of the movie, and I hope that those of you who want to make a stand do in fact stand firm. I know that they won't be getting my money. I will not be going to pay for the Rise of SKywalker. I'm not going to do it. And I will continue to not pay for Star Wars content so long as Rian Johnson is in this mix. This disrespectful piece of garbage. I hope you're very pleased, because you've ripped this fan base apart and you're still doing it. You're still doing it. No, as long as you're there, Rian Johnson, they won't be getting my money. Why should we care about these characters? You never did, and they certainly don't care about each other. But this is where we are, and you want us to go to the theater in a week and change and give you our money? That's what you expect to happen? Well, I have some news for you, Disney Star Wars. This is not going to go the way you think.
As you can see, Mary called for a boycott, then saw the movie release day, making her a hypocrite. Perhaps the most hypocritical of all, and the person with the most to gain from his virtue signalling, is author Stephen Walton. Stephen has written a book, the first of 5 volumes, that catalogues events surrounding the ruckus between Disney and the Fandom Menace, a worthy contribution to make. However, that doesn't excuse the hypocrisy. The one thing I will say in Steven's defence is that he has a kid and he took his kid, and I understand that, so I can't wholeheartedly resent him. I remember when my dad took me to see The Fellowship of the Ring when it was released at Christmas in 2001, and it was a really nice time, so I completely understand that Steven is being a good dad. I really do get that. The difference between the two situations, though, is that my dad wasn't writing a book criticising Tolkien, then taking me to see Lord of the Rings, the way Steven's writing a book criticising Disney, then went to see Star Wars on release date. And I haven't condemned anyone else through virtue signalling if they planned to see Rise of Skywalker the way Steven has. He's another one.
Let me explain something. You do what you want with your money. You do what you want with your money. If anything, the Fandom Menace stands for you liking what you like, you having your own opinion on what you like, and spending your money where you want to spend it. But understand this, that if you pay these people to go see 9, if you pay them, you're rewarding this. You're rewarding this. This is the company culture you're rewarding. This is the kind of ideology that you're rewarding. If you're going to pay to see this movie, and I mean, if you're going to review it, you know, if it's you know, it is what it is. But you really want to reward this? You want to reward this guy telling you to F off?
These people give not a single frack about reality, let alone anyone and not in their financial hierarchy. They don't care about people. They surely don't care about minorities of the working class, but most of all, they don't give a single damn about Star Wars fans or the actors or characters that fandom loves. Remember that when considering going to see episode Nobody Cares. Are you willing to spend your money on a company that has told you and the people you love to F off? That has constantly attacked you with labels and lies? I understand to some that cuckery is a thing. For me, to quote Lord Doomcock of Overlord DVD, without respect, we reject. When December comes, stay angry.
As you can see, author Stephen Walton called for a boycott through his virtue signalling, then saw the movie release day, making him a hypocrite. I cannot stress this enough, these are not the only people who did this. As I said in my last video, I woke up and my feed was nothing but big fandom menaces reviewing Rise of Skywalker, all after asking us not to watch it. So these 3 are just an example of the hypocrisy that's rife in the upper echelons of the Fandom Menace. These people are not the ones to follow. They criticise Disney for their virtue signalling, then use the exact same tactics on us with added crocodile tears just for that extra embellishment. Dare to disagree with them though, call them out on their hypocrisy, and do they say, well, you can have an opinion but I don't agree? No, the moment you call them out on their bullshit, they will rant and rave. I got called a social justice warrior by one of them. They will insult you, and for what? Stating the well documented truth? Here's the real truth. Nobody made these people say any of these things, then go and see the movie. That's all on them. They chose to speak, they chose to act, because they knew they would get views for it. Call them out on their hypocrisy, I guarantee you they won't respond kindly. You'll be met with nothing but insults, because they don't care about you, or me, or Disney. They care about money, and in that respect, they are no different from Disney, from Kathleen Kennedy, from Ryan Johnson. Criticise their integrity and you're essentially contributing to them getting a bad reputation, just like we did with Disney. And just like Disney, these hypocrites will come out snarling, defending their moneymaker to the best of their ability. Because as I said at the beginning, it's all about the super chats and the merchandise and the views that are really just ways for them to get your money. These people are presenters who couldn't care less about the franchise and are only after one thing, your money, just like Disney. And they've all proven that by seeing the movie on day of release. It was never about providing a service to you, though they will happily shift that blame to you. It was always about 2 things. Seeing the movie that they wanted to see without taking any blame for contributing to the money that the movie makes, and being the earliest reviewer so that they get more views, likes and subs, which all conveniently translate into money. I haven't even mentioned how many of these big fandom menaces have gone to Galaxy's Edge as well. That's food for thought that you can just add on to everything else I'm saying. These fandom menacers love to call out everyone under the sun on their virtue signalling hypocritical bullshit, and it's time we called them out on their own.